Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude Beyond Mystic, and welcome to this evening's very special Divine Feminine Oracles show. With me tonight, of course, is the lovely Selvia. You can find her work at intamana.ca. Selvia, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I am really happy to be back here. So I'm doing great.
I'm
Thank you.
excited to have you on and reading the comments from our last show, Sylvia. People are very excited to hear more about what you have to say. So we'll get into all of that here tonight. But please also join me in welcoming my co-host for tonight. You can find Meg here at MaisonJupiter.com. If you're looking for an astrological reading, that's where you can do so. And again, a coupon code Beyond Mystic in one word will give you an extra 10% off. Meg, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm very good. Lots of energy I'm feeling today. Lots of excitement with our news in Canada. I'm like so happy about the news that's come out. My whole body is like buzzing. So if I look a little bit crazy tonight, guys, it's because we just had some amazing news that JC just did an awesome video about. So yeah, I'm great. I'm very happy to be here with both of you. Selvia, I listened to some of the show that you guys did. What was that last week? The show you did with Janine and
the Sacred Mysteries and the Temple of the Blue Flame. Yes.
Yeah, that was super cool. So
yeah. Well, thank you for that, Meg. And yes, we're all a little bit discombobulated. You're looking at three hardcore, freedom-loving, fringe minority Canadians here on the screen. And today's news was well, I don't know. I was saying this at the beginning of the show. It's kind of like bittersweet. On one hand, it's like, see, we weren't crazy. But on the other hand, it's like, wait, what? What just happened? It kind of brings me back to this whole era of having to deal with this Emergencies Act, the police state, the extreme censorship, and so yeah, I just did this. Actually, I've been wanting to do this new format, a breaking news format on Twitter for about a month now. Where I created the posters back in I think November, maybe December, and I was waiting for that first, like, okay, when am I going to go out and do this new format? And today I saw the news. I'm like, oh shit, today's the worst day. I already have 3 shows, and I'm running. I'm running on fumes, but I just went ahead and did it. So I look a little bit tired in the video, but at the same time, we're happy to hear this news. Yes, the federal court just announced that the Emergencies Act, as it pertains to the response to the Freedom Convoy, was unconstitutional and basically against charter rights. Meg, your first thoughts on that? You're saying, yes, there's a lot of energy here today. We're feeling trepidatious. It's good news, but at the same time, how are you feeling personally? Because this was very hard for you also as a Canadian. You explained on the show many times before how all of these mandates really messed up your life in a big way. Again, we're still on YouTube here, so we're going to watch some of our language, but explain to the audience here how excited you are today, but also maybe nervous about some of this energy coming back into your field of view here.
Yeah, it's a little bit like I don't have post-traumatic stress disorder, and I don't mean to compare it to that because I know that's very serious for people that have that, but I'm feeling all these things in my body that I haven't felt since 2021, 2022. A nervousness, an excitement like I felt when the Freedom Convoy was happening. But I was one of those Canadians that got locked out of Canada for 2 years. And it makes me really emotional because I didn't think I would be back in Canada. I didn't know when I would be back in Canada. I wasn't able to go to the Freedom Convoy because I'm with a Belgian man and I was living in Belgium. Very happy to be in that long distance relationship. But I was just watching that whole thing play out when it was going on. And my heart and soul wanted to be there so bad. And because of the mandates, I could not be there. Right. So yeah, lots of different emotions. But I feel like, and it's crazy because Pluto just went into Aquarius. There's lots of things going on with the Canada astrology chart, the Justin Trudeau Castro astrology chart, that I think things are about to really come to a head over the next 2 months with this administration. I'll be careful what I say.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping we could stay on YouTube here tonight, so we could still go into this. Let me see, make sure. Yeah, everybody's there in the live chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Rumble feed. Also, there is a bit of a lag still. For some reason, we've been having issues with Rumble in the last couple of days. At any rate, welcome, everyone. So yes, going back to this news, the National Post earlier today, basically breaking the news that the Liberal government invoking the Emergencies Act during the Freedom Convoy was unreasonable, unjustified, as per this federal court ruling, and also that it had infringed upon charter rights. Sylvie, people might not know this, but when I was reporting on Parliament Hill, I wasn't afraid, of course, of the freedom-loving Canadians. I was afraid of being mugged by some really rogue police officers, maybe, as we've seen with Christina Fuhrling in the last couple of days. And I was afraid also being mistaken maybe for mainstream news because I was reporting here on screen. And so you were actually one of my bodyguards during some of these events as an ex RCMP officer. And I really appreciated you having my back because it was hard to see what was going on when I was interviewing people. Explain,
Yeah.
first of all, your position here today, seeing this news, the fight for freedom that you've been fighting, and where that news brings you today. How does it make you feel?
Even just you saying that is like giving me the goosies, the goosebumps. I'm not gonna lie. I when I saw that, my immediate sense was this sort of "fu" energy. Straight up, was just like, you know. At the same time, I mean, I've done a ton of unraveling and healing since then as well, and it was traumatic for anyone that it doesn't matter what role you were playing in it. Anybody who had to deal with that level of betrayal, right, was really truly affected. And I had dear friends of mine, active and non-active duty police officers, military personnel who were active parts of that convoy. And to watch, it gets me emotional too, to literally watch the unravel happen and the conflict. And really, a lot of these people were just trying their best to keep the peace, to truly keep the peace, because there was just so much illusion and fear being fed and coming through a lot of the local police forces, right? And fear of all kinds. A lot of police officers like, I'm just doing my job, and really, really not awake to the corruption that was happening. And at the same time, some who were actually in fact awake feared really losing their livelihood. Right. So there was just so many things that were transpiring. And so for me, I'm just really happy that the truth prevailed. And I'm all about truth and that trust that, whether you want to call it God or universe or, that God always wins.
Right.
No matter what.
Right.
So
we're there now. I share your sentiment too. Like I said, today I was going through the emotions of being there. And, I was there the 2 or 3 weekends in a row. And I heard the chants of people like longing for freedom. And I heard like the screams of the people here when some of them were getting trampled by the cops or by the horses and all that stuff. And looking back on it now, I realized that I may have some post-traumatic stress disorder in some way because it's affecting me more than I thought it would. It really brought me back to those days, and I have to say thank you to Julie and to Janine when they were holding down the fort here at the studio when I was there on the on the grounds with you, and you were having my back. Speak about one of the scary moments, because at one point there was a group of men coming at me, and you spotted them from far away, and you intervened there. And I was interviewing this lovely young lady. Speak about what this group of men were doing and why they were coming at me with such intent. Explain that to the audience.
JC, I'm going to be honest, my tunnel vision, just like literally that's what happened. Scan, whoom, and I just, went right in. Are we talking about the one, there were a group of men that were just from different parts internationally. Some of them were British. Is that the ones that we're talking? Because there was a couple.
Yeah, so there's a couple of events, but I'm really meaning the event of the people who wanted to come at me. They were angry at me thinking I was CBC or CTV News.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of that upheaval and uprising and like wanting to fight and wanting to express, and like that was really like the fertile ground to do it, right? So we managed to
well, you cooled him down right away by telling him, no, he's actually a truther. He's on your side. He's going to say the truth here. But, it was so surreal being there. And I really appreciate, Selvia, you having my back during those times. It was absolutely crazy. Okay, guys, I just wanted to share that again. Breaking news for tonight. It's not the typical conversation for the Divine Feminine Oracle show, but it is, as we said here, bittersweet for the three of us here on the screen who've been fighting ever since here to get some, I guess, clarity on the situation, to understand that we're not crazy, that this was wrong, and we were right to fight for those rights. And so hopefully today we are making a dent on that. And as we saw at the UFC 297 in Toronto last week, there's a lot of chance in anger at our prime minister. So there's a lot of division and there's a lot of wounding that still needs to be healed for this country if we're going to move forward. Meg, let's talk about that wound, that big gash, that big division that was created by the misogynist comments, by the fringe minority comments, by the forced, you know what, we can get into that in YouTube, but talk about this wound and where we go from here. What's the astrology bringing up to us right now? What are the alignments also that's bringing up? This is very temporal as well, moving into this new latest alignment here of Pluto. Share that with the audience members and how you're not surprised really that this is going on right now. Meg.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, it's like, wow, kind of freaky how accurate the astrology is, because every chart I look at reflects what's going on. So is it okay, JC, if I share something on the screen?
Yep.
So first of all, and let me know if I talk too fast, you guys, because I get excited by this kind of stuff. We're having a full moon in Leo on Thursday, January 25th, which is going to be at 5 degrees of Leo. Okay, which is that's a very fiery, amplified sign in astrology. And it's not a typical full moon in Leo, because Leo tends to be a very positive, happy, joyful sign. But we've got Pluto, who just ingressed into Aquarius, 0 degrees Aquarius, in an exact opposition to this full moon. So this is like the dark side of life being illuminated, because what full moons do is they illuminate things that are hidden big time, where nothing can hide at all anymore. So doesn't surprise me this week. It's like so many different things coming out, so much different information. But what's really cool is in the chart of Canada, if you look at the bottom part where, let me see if I can zoom in here. This is the Mercury in the chart of Canada, and it's at 4 degrees of Leo. So it's 1 degree off of being exactly conjunct the full moon we're having this week, which we're in the portal of. And Mercury, which I think this is really cool, in astrology rules our friends, like our close friends. The USA is one of Canada's close friends. And what have we been seeing this week? Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Dana White, all these friends are coming out of the woodworks and going, hey, what's going on with you guys is not okay. And actually, like what Tucker Carlson is, we're about to come and liberate you. He posted a video of him on social media, ruled by Mercury in astrology, of him on the phone, ruled by Mercury in astrology, calling the office of Justin Trudeau Castro, saying, we're about to come liberate Canada. So it's really being activated in the Canadian chart, on top of the Great North American Eclipse that we're going to be having April 8th, which, yes, that's in April, but that's the eclipse season that we're coming closer and closer to, is exactly conjunct Chiron, this North American Great Eclipse. And why it's called the Great North American Eclipse, if I can find the right thingy here, let me see, is because the path of totality goes over Mexico, USA, and Canada, which only happens every once in 500 years. So this is a huge deal that's going to heal these countries, I think, and North America big time. And in the chart of Canada, the rising sign of Canada is Aries 16 degrees. And then the chart of the eclipse is happening Aries 19 degrees, exactly conjunct Chiron, which is our wounded healer asteroid, our archetype. What we're going through right now is real healing, like what we've been talking about. We went through that whole trauma. We're still kind of in it, but as we get closer to this eclipse, there's real healing is going to come through, in my personal opinion, karma being repaid. And I don't wish anything negative to happen on anyone, but if you screw a whole nation or you screw a whole world, something's going to come for you. And there's, something's going to come around, and justice and light and love is going to be served. So I think that's what's coming in the coming months, and it's going to get more and more intense. So it's exciting. Oh, JC, you're muted.
There was, sorry about that. I was trying to prevent some of the echoes. There was a statement a woman made on the House things. They were going after Trudeau. I think it was in Toronto last year, and she said something to the effect that, karma's a bitch, Mr. Trudeau, and it's coming for you. So I thought that was really funny. So when you were talking about all this karma right now, yeah, it very much feels that way. I'm gonna have Selvia get into Chiron, also the wounded healer, in a moment, but I wanted you to expand on that a little bit more, Carla. What can we expect on a personal level also? Now we're talking here at the main larger scene, maybe at the political level and world level, but on a personal level too, we are going to be facing perhaps some of this past karma, these past lives, and some of these previous wounds that we really need to look at now and to heal for ourselves as we also individually embark on this new age of Aquarius. Speak about that and how that's going to be affecting us on a personal level first, Meg, and then you, Selvia.
Oh, sorry, you're asking me first?
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
you
totally
first.
zoned out. Can you just repeat that?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, so wounded healer. Okay, so Chiron, we're seeing now it play out on the world scene. So we're going to
Yeah.
see the politics of it and all that karma. But we are also personally going to have to deal with some of our past wounds as we are being called into now not just this eclipse, but moving into this Pluto moving into Aquarius. So speak about that here. How Chiron is going to be affecting us personally here, as per that chart.
Yeah, well, it's actually doing the healing work for those that have not yet done any kind of work on themselves. That's going to be a really big theme for us like-minded people, is we're going to have to learn how to not just continue to heal ourselves and do that self-work, but that next kind of shamanic initiation of being able to space hold and be a space holder for others that have not done any work on themselves yet. That's something I'm really feeling with this Chiron energy right now is, a lot of our brothers and sisters out there, whether they're family, friends, coworkers, have done no self-reflection, no self-work ever.
Right.
And we're coming into Pluto 0 degrees Aquarius now, Chiron at, critical degree, exactly conjunct this upcoming Great North American Eclipse, where we're coming into times on this higher timeline where you can't be unconscious anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a little bit, it is like a healing crisis kind of for, I think, a lot of people. And it's so important for us to be staying grounded. I've been saying this in so many of the videos, keeping ourselves strong physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, because we're going to be healing, and it's going to be kind of cathartic releases when people actually get to be held to account and we go through that actual healing process together, but also those loved ones that we have that have never done any self-work, us having to hold space for them at the same time.
Right.
So as we get more and more into this year, and actually, I don't think I shared this on any of the shows yet since we've been back from our holiday break, one of my closest family members that I never thought would woke up over the holiday break. And it was very emotional. And it was a she. She said to me, she's had 4 jabs. She doesn't feel the same since, and she wants to do a detox cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy guacamole. This is someone that I didn't think might step into this timeline with us, who is, and we're going to be seeing more and more of that. So really amazing time for Selvia. I don't know specifically what kind of sessions you offer. Like, is it reading or type of healing, or is it both?
It's a little bit of everything. To be honest. Yeah.
So it's like what you do, what all of us like-minded people do. We're going to be working overtime. And I tell everybody, whoever has a session with me that's feeling guided to step into this work, there's actually not enough of us right now.
Right. Well, that's the big part of the impetus. Janine and I were focused on bringing even more people to the show now. One, we're getting more people drop out of the matrix, come into the woo, as you just described, even much to our surprise. Some people like, wow, okay, that guy just woke up, like really cool. Okay. But on top of that is bringing new talent so that we can have these containers to hold these people as they come into the woo, because they're missing the footing, right? So they're going to need some time and a little bit of hand holding for that footing. We'll get into some of the services both of you offer here later into the show, but let me ask you specifically, Selvia, too, about Chiron, the wounded healer. In part of your work, I've done sessions with you, Sarah's done sessions with you also in person. We do have to get into some of those core wounds, and I think for some people that's the biggest challenge, right? And right now, as as Meg is saying, the astrology is really pushing that forward also. So on one hand, we're being forced by the matrix, maybe kicked out, kicking and screaming from the matrix into the woo. And at the same time, the astrology is asking us to look at that core wound to heal it so that we come on the other side bigger, stronger, and better. Share with the audience members how you're dealing now also with Chiron, the wounded healer, in your work, and how that's manifesting in some of your client work.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I don't want to necessarily repeat anything that anybody said, but it's all very held true. What I would like to maybe piggyback off of is I'm going to just relate first to my personal experience moving through the wounded healer, right? And then from this side and the perspective I now have as those wounded healers start coming up more, I feel that there is a self-actualization piece that we move through as we begin to really heal out of that victim consciousness as wounded healers, right? A lot of us come into healing because we obviously have been wounded and we want to help everybody else and make sure that we fix or we save, right? And so that also plays a big part in sort of this like that victim consciousness, right? But what I'm feeling a lot of now is that there is a deeper integration and a much greater thirst for like the deeper aspects of truth and trust. Like trust is like the current of trust right now, and trusting in the, you know, the greatest, whether that's God, goddess, the universe, is a really big theme for a lot of people that are coming in. So what I'm seeing from a lot of clients right now is, you know, people who've done some work for many years and are feeling stagnant. And there's a knowing and a longing that there is more to be revealed, right? This is the great mystery. It's infinite.
Yeah.
And there's a definite pull towards wanting to be of service in a more integrated and way of integrity versus what we've been seeing with a lot of, and this is a whole other spiral we can get into, but what, you know, over what we've been seeing maybe the last 5-10 years, where was this like initial awakening and there was a lot of lack of integrity as things went mainstream, and a lot of lack of initiation, a lot of lack of experience. And yeah. And so now what I'm sensing is really this evolution that's happening through the wounded healer that wants to come into a full self-actualized, authentic being of service. If that feels, that's what I'm feeling into.
Yeah. And how does that relate to some of the teachings in Egypt? We can get into that a little bit here, but the going underground or going towards the death process, the death and rebirth process. It's one thing to talk about the core wound of the individual, but we do have to go through that death and rebirth. And I think maybe now more than ever, it's something people should be paying attention to, whether it's the circumstance that's going to force you to go through it. You've went through it in the last couple of years, leaving Canada, leaving the work, leaving the RCMP. Sarah's done the same thing also here with her job, not wanting to be jabbed and injected and all that stuff. But it appears that now, as we move into 2024, more and more of the old world is falling apart. And so more people are going to be facing the death of their understanding, their placement in that old world, to now have to face and go through the rebirth here in this new world that we're creating. Speak about that and the echoes of Egypt, Isis, Osiris, going on the underground and coming back up on the other side. I know that's a topic for 3-4 hours show, but just generally speaking, share the commonalities between those two threads, Selvia.
Okay, let me just gather this piece. So, Egypt is obviously a very sacred land, and for, you know, thousands of years, some of the greatest minds and greatest philosophers of, you know, all those times have traveled there to be initiated in the land, be initiated in temples, decode mysteries, so many things. Okay. Egypt holds mass technology. We can call it ancient or we can call it future. I personally believe it's very advanced. Okay. And in terms of death and rebirth and going into sort of the Isis mysteries. What we're actually speaking to is Osiris. Osiris is Lord of the underworld. Okay, so he truly is, the yang to Isis's yin, and I want to call her Osset. Actually, the way I speak to her is Osset is her name, and really, what it is that as we go through this sort of hero's journey of our life and continue to do the work, we have literally no choice but to look into our very own underworld. And oftentimes we're so afraid to look at the shadows, right? But what we need to understand is that our shadow, our individual shadow, is reflective of literally what we see in the collective shadow. And that's a really hard concept for most people to grasp. Another piece of this that I'm also seeing come through a lot of clients is like, I've done a ton of shadow work. Amazing. But there's always deeper and like I call the spiral and the perspectives that expand. What I like to speak to is shadow alchemy, right? We can do the shadow work and be in the awareness, but it's the actual embodiment aspect, right? And the becoming of the unbecoming.
Right.
And this is like that death and rebirth process consistently over and over again until we get to a place where we can comfortably hold the energetic of the truth of all that we are, the authenticity of this divine human, which the ancient Egyptians taught in a very shamanic way a lot about, right? And so the resurrection of Osiris, because there's a whole story, and I'm giving you guys tidbits here because we can go down this forever. But basically, Osiris is about resurrection energy, right? And bringing all of his pieces back together.
So I want you to concentrate on that here, because we're seeing that now, whether we want to call it, some people in the woo community will say, oh, I'm recapturing some of my soul fragments that were taken away from me, the division and all of that, and we're trying to rebuild the whole, so to speak. That speaks very much to that Osiris story. Speak about that, how to right now, and maybe give tips to people as to how they can recognize some of the pieces of themselves that maybe they let go with some other older partners or some older trauma, and how they need to bring that back and be very cognizant about all those pieces to rebuild that whole. What experience and what advice would you give to the audience on that?
Yeah. Well, I want to say be weary of these terms that we tend to coin where we say, oh, I'm bringing back soul parts and integrating soul parts. Yes and no. Because oftentimes what happens is that our human or our mind likes to sort of latch on to the concepts and ideologies and identities of these past lives. And that's where the trap is. So it's truly about information, because the totality of our infinite energy, which we can call soul or our spirit, holds tremendous information, right? So it's all in consciousness. And so what we're actually pulling from oftentimes when we really start doing the work and opening is we're pulling on information that is, number one, extremely important to what we are here to do now. Okay. Otherwise, it would not be revealed.
Right.
And how do we then integrate some of these aspects is truly by, I always say, try it on, right? I'll give you an example. At the root of a lot of fear is grief or shame. Okay. So if we try on shame, we begin to realize that we start having these contractions in our body, right? Because the body is truly the ultimate shadow. It's the body that's been oppressed throughout time. There's a descent we must do into our underworld of the body. For women, it's the womb. For men, it's the hara, right? That really then you start to feel the experience of where you're in contraction. And when we're in contraction, we're in fear. When we're in expansion, we're in love. And so we want to continue to try on like the villain role, try on the boundary, try on saying yes or no. These are the shadow aspects of ourselves that once upon a time were not safe to be of. It was like we were told it wasn't safe to be a certain way, or we were told don't speak, and there's a lot of
don't be a witch, we're gonna burn you at the stake.
Exactly. We hold that persecution wound, right?
Right.
And I'll just be fully vulnerable here. Me even coming onto this show, okay, like literally I have to sit in prayer for, I say prayer, but I have to sit with intention oftentimes, even before coming on, because I have to calm my body and I have to get really comfortable sitting in discomfort of expression, right? And that is the only way through this shadow or this dark, and the only way we get to integrate the parts of ourselves that have gone unseen, unloved, and unnurtured. Did that kind of
you hit it out of the park, and I'm looking at the comments in the chat. Everybody's like, whoa, okay. We need Selvia to come on more often. There's a lot of depth of knowledge there. And again, guys, Selvia and I are going to do more shows. We're going to be live again tomorrow for the Sacred Mysteries. We're going to get into some of this in more details and eventually build a series on this stuff. There's so much information there to go through tonight. We're just kind of like touching some of those major points for you guys. I hope you're enjoying the show. Meg, you've been nodding a lot there in the last couple of minutes. Some of your reactions to some of this information, some of your thoughts, maybe you have questions also for Selvia, or is also from your point of view, from your perspective, from what your clients, are you seeing also what Selvia's just describing now, that death and rebirth scenario? What can you share with the audience?
Yeah, it feels like everyone I talk to is going through something right now. And I personally feel like we've been I call it the collective dark night of the soul. Since we had the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in January of 2020, being an astrologer, that brought on our collective dark night of the soul, where we entered the whole plandemic, if I can use that word on here. And, for some of us being awake since the beginning, not that we're better than other people, but that process of being awake from the beginning, like for me, it was about a month into it where I went, okay, this is bullshit. Okay, I don't need to wear at first I was wearing like gloves going to the grocery store because I was so scared. I was feeling empathically like all the energy of people so scared, not knowing what was going on. And I'm like, oh my God, there's actually a virus. But then a month into it, feeling, okay, actually this is just a fear war, propaganda war, and starting to speak out from there. Like a lot of us have been in this since the beginning of this collective dark night of the soul, and processing all that. And when we speak out, like I could so resonate with what you were saying, Selvia, of feeling like before you come on the camera, you have to kind of go into prayer. And sometimes, most of the times I feel like that too, before going onto the camera, because even in this dark night of the soul that we've been in, losing most of my clients, losing friends, losing spiritual teachers that I thought were some of the most advanced people I'd ever met. But then when you talk about the shadow side of life, they call you toxic and you need to smudge yourself. So I feel like also what's coming up right now is who are the real space holders, And in my personal opinion, someone who's a real space holder is someone that will not judge you for bringing up that shadow and will not judge you for saying anything, right? And won't go into, okay, we need to smudge you and you're being negative and all that toxic positivity. And I feel like the Pluto in Aquarius right now, just to bring in the astrology for the second, at the same time we have Neptune in Pisces right now, which is Neptune in his home sign of Pisces, which is spirituality and illusions and disillusionment. It's such an intense frequency of coming into this year and the next Gregorian year of 2025, actually the spiritual community being revealed and teachers being revealed, right? And us coming back into our own sovereignty of, no, sometimes we have to face our shit and do some really uncomfortable work.
Janine usually says, put on your big girl pants.
Yeah.
Put on your big boy pants too. Yes.
Yeah. So now I completely forget what your question was, JC, and I just went on.
You're totally on it. Everybody got what you said. Let me maybe redirect also to Selvia here. You just nod as Meg was talking about losing friends, losing gurus, losing teachers that we thought were all that just a couple of years ago, and now having to go through that mourning process also, and then from that mourning and from the ability or the result of making space in your entourage with these people leaving, then we had free space to invite new people in, new fields of information, new remembering of our coded DNA. Talk about the pyramids, the technology, the sacred technology that is also now bubbling up from the surface, from the Mother Gaia itself, and how that's also calling upon us to, one, cut off the old and maybe make room at our dinner table, but also, two, putting new information fields in front of us, and how sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that brings up a lot of guilt for having to step away from some old relationships, old family members, old friends, and all that. But how it is the past moving forward here to accept these new codes and this information as we go through this process. Selvia.
Yeah, this is deep. This is deep. So first of all, Meg, like, aho, because I loved what you were saying about the whole bypass aspect of spirituality, which is a real problem, and that is all finally coming to light. So I just wanted to, give you a high five there. So,
It's one of Selvia and my big pet peeve over the last number of years. Selvia and I've talked about this so many times, all that bypassing and all that fake stuff that we see, and it just irks us to the nth degree. But I think universe now is putting light on all of that too, and those people are losing a lot of the visibility they used to have, to now having a lot of the people come to people who perhaps are more authentic. Keep going, Selvia.
Yes, totally. And I just want to say one little piece that really ties into Aquarius. Okay. And I'm by no means an astrologer. So no, but understanding that every sign also has a shadow side. Okay. And when we think of the Piscean age, right, and dogma and indoctrination, and that was like the shadow side of Pisces. Okay. Also thinking of Aquarius being, I believe, an air element. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Meg, but I believe that's in an air element. And so when there is no grounding or no integration of Aquarius, what we end up seeing is this very fluffy, floofy, like hippie in the jungle, barefoot and just running, and like love and light and bypass, right, of all of this really deep stuff that is necessary for human evolution. Right? The darkness is necessary for human evolution.
Yeah.
So if we're too honed in on one side, right? And so this is that break, that I say break, potential separation, I don't know. But where I could see Aquarius going one way versus another is, again, a major bypass of, we have like technologists, the age of technology and AI, and like, what are we feeding the system, right? What are we feeding that system? So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because it does have a lot to do with shadow. So in terms of answering your question, JC, with, the loss of relationships and friends and family, 100%. It was excruciating. I will just speak very briefly to that experience for me and my husband. Again, I feel that the prime energy that was really moving through the last 2 or 3 years is this betrayal energy. And when we look at it from sort of like an axis level, like if you take Gaia and the earth and you look at her axis, and her axis is actually starting to come like this, the polarities are starting to align, right? And so when it's sort of like this versus like this is the energy of betrayal. Like, oh my God, right? So there's a lot of, so now we're starting to align and we're starting to come back into our spine, right? And a lot of this has to do with those ancient Egyptian mysteries and understanding root and understanding the necessity to be rooted in, right, not just cut off from like the mind up, but to be truly rooted in and to have that integration. And so when we go, you know, to various locations in Egypt, temples, pyramids, pyramids, it's a technology all of its own. And I have personally been in those pyramids, and I am going back to those pyramids. And we have come to a place where we definitely don't know it all, right? But we're starting to understand. And I believe in the way when we start reading, when we start decoding and understanding some of the greater mysteries and truths, we understand that even in the pyramids, each one has been specifically designed to help evolve the divine human in a certain way. And that is through potential harmonic and tuning our body to a very specific frequency. Mm-hmm. And once we're in that specific frequency, we have access to a vaster consciousness and information, which is why Egypt has been so profound and necessary for our evolution, which is why it also became so corrupted and the templates turned at one point. You know, there's so much that went on those lands, right? Mm-hmm. And now we are coming back to it because we have a calling, because we are in a time, whether that be astrologically or Year of the Dragon, right? The twin dragons, the DNA, the code, the original code, the non-genetically modified code, right? Of the divine human. And I'm probably going to like completely lose most of these viewers right now.
No. Meg was talking about dragons just last week in our Beyond Astro. We're totally following the conversation. Thank you for that. Well, hold on just a second here. So as you're talking about the pyramids, I'm just going to go back and check on the Rumble feed. You guys are still there, okay? And yes, we have that beautiful pyramid background there in the back. As you were talking about being in alignment, out of alignment, being in these different energies, and now coming back into alignment, I wanted to bring your attention to this. I don't know, Selvia, if you're aware of this, but I interviewed Jason Quitt 2 years ago. He's written the book called Egyptian Postures of Power, and he's talking about how the body is an antenna. And based on what you're saying now, too, when you're in this betrayal a position, you're out of a certain alignment and you're receiving not the correct energy. So going back into this alignment now, and or using some of these technologies, going and moving your body in specific antenna positions to reach specific healing frequencies, to reach specific knowledge frequencies, etc., etc. It's really the empowerment of the human being, understanding that this vagus nerve system is really an antenna to source, to our higher self and to source. And for this show, because we're still on YouTube, we can't get into how the last couple of years, some of the injectables has really damaged the vagus nerve system. That'll be for another show. But speak about now some of these Egyptian postures of power and how knowing and using some of that technology can really, really help us regain center and perhaps retune our receiver to that source frequency. Selvia first, and then I'll get Meg to chime in.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about posture, you know, really like having an aligned spine is very, very important. You know, it's how we move that energy, like you're saying, you know, from root to top, and how we circle that energy. And a lot of the mystery schools in the temples, the original ones that were really devoted to absolute true union and true love, used those energetics really to heal many things, whether that was, you know, their community, their, you know, people in community, that, you know, people would pilgrimage to a lot of these temples. And that was one of the arts that were used. You know, breath has a lot to do with it as well. How we move that energy. There's many different.
The Taoists call that the microcosmic orbit. It all ties into
yes, absolutely. And so, really, beyond that as well, you know, we have things like the sarcophagus. Okay, I don't like that's a whole other thing, but we know that a lot of the minerals and the stone that was actually used inside of these pyramids were also technology in and itself. right? And water, like, I mean, we don't see that now in the pyramids, but once upon a time, it was surrounded by water, and water being a huge energy conductor, would really support a lot of what was happening. And, you know, again, getting into codes and sacred geometry and really understanding how sacred geometry really plays a role in creation through harmonic and frequency, which comes through expression and voice and tone. And so inside the pyramids, you can go into various places inside the pyramids where, you know, the ancients knew that it required a particular pitch or tone to tune the body. And yeah, am I gonna get cut out of YouTube?
No, I mean, oh my God, we could do a 7-hour show on this. But a couple of years ago, I had automatic writing to build basically a refraction chamber here on my property. We have ley lines. Sylvia's been in the back woods here of our property quite a few times. She knows the power of the energy there. But in that dream, I was told to use dolomite and quartzite. And I didn't know about these crystals. I know a lot about crystals, but these particularly I didn't know about. And only after doing some research, they realized that these were also used inside the pyramid. And when you talked about the water, the refraction of these crystals, anyways, it's just like, it's mind-boggling. And here in Ontario, in Lake Manitoulin, or island, l'île Manitoulin, Manitou means the great spirit, the great god, or whatever you want to call it, the big boss, so to speak. Those two elements are there. And these natives were using that technology to heal people in a very big way. And people were pilgrimages around North America to get to that island for that specific reason. Again, using that same technology. There's a lot there. Okay. We'll go back in more details tomorrow on that note. Selvia, I wanted to bring Meg back on the screen because you mentioned dragons, and dragons are in our field of view also. You can talk about the astrology, what they mean to you, and maybe share with this audience what you were saying on your YouTube channel last week about this year of the dragon, and how perhaps all of this is going to unfold, and how we have to kind of mesh in or harmonize with that energy as opposed to fight it here moving forward. Speak about that, Meg.
Right. So I'm not a Chinese astrologer, but I do really love Chinese astrology, and it really resonates. And what I know is that the dragon, according to my friends that are Chinese, I have some close Chinese friends, is the luckiest of all the animals and the most powerful of all the animals. So it's a really powerful, fiery frequency we're stepping into, having a dragon. And I forget what the element is. Did someone just say in the comments what the element of the dragon is? If you know what the element year is, please put it in the comments. It's a super powerful frequency that dragons, which I'm very familiar with because I study Celtic shamanism, they are our protectors. They are about creativity, Tantra, the Kundalini. They're the keepers of, the protectors of this realm. They're one of the protectors of this realm, and they're very close allies to us. So it's strengthening that dragon frequency that we're stepping into, and it's very creative. It's very empowering. Oh, Connie Phillips here. Thank you, Connie. Connie says, Year of the Wood Dragon. So that's very powerful, being the wood element. So there's so many different things happening right now with the Western astrology, Chinese astrology, all at the same time. And I feel like with it being a dragon, which is such an empowering frequency, it kind of goes into what's going with the Pluto Aquarius as well, which if I can just bring something on the screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was very blessed to go to Egypt in 2016 on a pilgrimage with Patricia Corey, who I absolutely love. Go check out, shout out to Patricia Corey. She's a starseed channeler. And that's actually where I met my husband now, Jens. We met in Egypt on that pilgrimage, which was quite magical. And
is she the author of that book there, or something Memphis?
No, that's Carolyn Reynolds.
Oh, okay.
Patricia Corey channeled the Syrian Revelations and some other starseed books. Okay. But actually go, and I'm sure you've seen some of these, Selvia, going to the pyramids and the sacred sites and seeing these freaking hieroglyphics where it's all in your face. All of this stuff is in your face. This stuff is not a conspiracy theory like this one. And there's several ones like this where they're showing you batteries. Mm-hmm. They're showing you electricity. They're showing you aircrafts. I actually saw this one. This is in a Hathor temple. At the top of it, where you see the helicopters and the sailboats and the planes. right? So it's like we're stepping into all of this stuff being revealed with Pluto and Aquarius. And I love what you said, because this is all technology. Aquarius rules technology. And I love what you said, Selvia, because that is the dark side. That is the shadow that we will have to look at first, and we will have to process first before we can fully step into, like, 20 years from now. Yay, Age of Aquarius, woohoo, we went through that. Aquarius is transhumanism. Aquarius is babies in artificial wombs and us seeing the results of that. Right? It's really intense stuff, right? But the positive side of Aquarius is spiritual science, right? Aquarius rules science. And so over the next 20 years, it's going to be that beautiful merging into the mainstream of, that work that Greg Braden does. And what are some of those other guys? I'm having a brain fart. All those quantum physics people, their work becoming really mainstream, and the spiritual.
Nassim Haramein is one of them too. That have been.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, like that actually becoming mainstream, and all this ancient civilization stuff coming to the forefront as well. Because one of the things that really triggered me when I went to Egypt, I had this I was so excited to go to Egypt. Like, yeah, this is going to be the best ever. And we're going to meditate at the pyramids and do all this stuff. And you go there and women are not treated very well in a lot of parts of Egypt. There's a, religion or religions there that they don't want you meditating at certain places unless you pay them the big bucks. Right. So you go to a lot of these places and it's being the divine feminine is being shut down. And that's really sad to see. I haven't been there since 2016, Selvia, so correct me if it's changed. But being able to go into the pyramid, that was the only place, the trip that I was on, that was the only place, the Great Pyramid, where we could do ceremony because we paid so much money, they let us go in. Everywhere else, they spat on us for trying to meditate. And, being women, not wearing certain clothes. Like, it was very, very wild that place that is, I think, the center point, if I'm not mistaken, of the chakra system of Mother Earth is they're trying their hardest to hold it back.
All that suppression energy still. Yeah. Speak about that, Selvia. I'm not sure if I can hear you or if your mic, Selvia. There you go. I can hear it. Go ahead.
I hear. So thank you for sharing that. I definitely, a couple of things I want to also speak or kind of trail off of what you were saying. First with Aquarius as well, because I think this is beautiful that you're bringing all that up. I want to highlight that I feel that one of the reasons why, AI and technology is sort of like that potential dark side as well is because it is evolving a lot quicker than humanity. And we are not, at this point, self-actualized enough or emotionally mature enough to have, integrated those shadow aspects, right? So we then lead from a very egoic place, an extractive place, and that's what we're feeding the systems. And it's going a lot quicker than our actual healing, right? So that I just wanted to preface that with, being aware, being awareness that is how vital and important the inner work is at this time. That is, like, everybody's like, what's my purpose? What's my mission? If you are here on this planet, incarnated at this time, and you chose to be here, you are here, number one, to do that work. And it's be of service to yourself first. Then see what happens from that space when you really integrate your medicine. But that's what we so yeah, I just want to say that. Now, okay, the next piece.
Hold that thought. Hold that second thought. I want to go deeper on what you just said, because earlier, Meg brought up the point of, the whole love and light bypassing all that stuff. And I've seen so many people in this community say to me, oh, we've already won, JC. We don't need to deal with those fuckers. We've already won love and light, barefoot in the forest type of thing. And I'm like, hold on a second. Although I understand your point of view, at the same point, going to your point now, our whole job in this incarnation is go through that healing process, but that learning process. And in order to learn, you have to deal with the dark. You have to go through the dark to get to the light. So that means that the protagonist needs the antagonist. I've been saying this so many times on our show where it's hard to put your head around this, but oftentimes you have to thank the Mr. Trudeaus of the world because they're making us go through this process of healing those wounds, but also going through the dark to get into the light. And that's the process that's required. And a lot of people are in that obfuscation of, oh, the light's already won, let's just party and we don't have to deal with these people. I don't think it's the right approach. Speak to that a little bit, Selvia.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at it from sort of a Gaian perspective, so Gaia, Mother Earth, okay, when we look at it from her perspective, she has contracted to host and hold and steward humanity through its evolution, okay? And part of that is to hold the darkness as well. And really, you know, healing is not unicorns and butterflies. It's outright excruciating AF at times. And it does take tremendous courage to step into looking at yourself and all of your crap, right? And there's just a lot of people that literally don't want to do that. Like they don't even have oftentimes the capacity. So, and this is also a nervous system thing, right? So it's like when your nervous system is so run down, right? And you're so dysregulated, we literally energetically and physiologically cannot hold the capacity for truth, because truth is a huge energy, right? So I guess in saying all that, I don't know if I've answered your question already, or if you want me to. Yeah,
no, that's perfect.
okay.
Yeah. Do you want to go to the other point? No, thank you for that. It's so important. Like I said, if you're not in that healing process, you cannot receive these new codes, as you're just saying now. We just can't hold the energy of truth. And you're right. It's not pretty. It's a long process. It's a hard process. What I like, though, and maybe I don't want to go too dark, what I like is what I'm seeing in the chat now. This community has come together, and not only did they support me when I was deleted 2-3 times and trying to bring bringing this type of information to the front, but they've supported each other. And I think that's the key also there too. Maybe you can talk about that too, or Meg afterwards, the importance of that scalar effect that humans have. On one hand, we had this, dictatorship around the world in the last couple of years telling us we had to be 6 feet apart. There was a very specific reason, even though Fauci said in the news 2 weeks ago that, it just came up, there was no science behind the 6 feet. Oh, yes, there was science. It has to do with our heart mass and our resonance, right? That's why we needed to be apart. Speak about that, the community, the importance of all of this, and the support structure that we have for this healing process. Now, how important is that to you, Selvia?
Well, community is the very final piece of healing. It is like when I look at humanity in my mind, in the vision, it looks like mycelium.
Oh,
we are literally
network. Yeah.
Right. We're just a network.
Yeah.
Right. Of physicality and spirituality and energetics. And that is what we are. And we're created in that divine way. We are not meant to go at this completely alone. Right? We are meant to be in relationship with others. And we know right off the bat that, they've done studies on this. Elders live longer when they're in community. So, of course, they would want to separate you. Of course, they would want that, right? There's how many layers and how many dimensions of separation, whether that's internalized or, physical or, it's all like every single trauma is rooted in disconnect. Everything. The original wound of disconnect from the mother, the original wound of spirit into matter, right? These are all disconnects. We are meant to be in union. And that is the year of the dragon as well. This is what we're evolving into, the capacity to be fully integrated and to be in full union right? That's the twin dragons, right?
You're muted, JC.
Meg, do you want to chime in on that? But before you do, let me just ask the audience members here too. We're already at the hour mark. A lot of people are like blown away from this information tonight. If you have questions for either Meg or Selvia, now's the time. Please put them in high caps so it's easier for me to pull them out of the chat here. So questions for Meg or Selvia. I'll try to get a few in here before the end of the show. So while we wait for those questions to populate, Meg, any thoughts on what we just said or any new information also you want to bring to the fore? And I just want to share with the audience members here, just a couple of minutes ago, Trump just won the primary in New Hampshire. There was a lot of discussion about all the money from the Democrats being pumped into Nikki Haley, but apparently that move did not work also. So he had a big landslide in Iowa just last week and now New Hampshire, setting the stage for this battle royale, perhaps on the ballot, off the ballot, constitutional debate we're going to have here in this year. But again, all of this, again, perfectly in time with the astrology. Just wanted to share that with the folks. Meg, anything else you want to share here tonight before we get into some of the questions?
Oh my God. I feel like there's so much I can share. There's so many different things we're bringing up, and then I have something to say, and then it floats out of my mind.
I know there's a lot.
And I want to touch on, JC, what you said. Maybe Justin Trudeau Castro is one of our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
And I've been saying that for a while. And a
few people corrected me in the chat. You want to thank Justin Trudeau, JC? I'm like, well, think about it.
That's exactly it, though. That's exactly it. And you were saying it so eloquently, Selvia, of doing that work. That's the main reason why we're here, is to bring healing, love, light, empowerment back to humanity, right? Excuse me. And it's hard being in this collective dark night of soul. This ain't easy. And I don't know about you guys, but I used to be able to meditate 2012, 2013. I could meditate so easily, sit there, la-di-da-di-da. Now, since 2020, I have such a challenging time meditating, challenging time keeping focus, even doing healing work. And what I'm being guided to say is if you're in a place where that feels like really uncomfortable, or I'm noticing a lot of clients too feel like they don't have the attention span to go there, get yourself into a joyful frequency, like drumming, singing, chanting, dancing, going outside. If you're in a space where you're like, I can't meditate, I can't do this, healing ceremony right now, just work on raising the vibe. It's also about raising the vibe, because these dark arts people, they don't want us to raise the vibe. They want us to be 6 feet apart, not in community, not hugging, not dancing, not celebrating life, because it is a gift to be here, So just wanted to share that, because I'm noticing a lot of people having a hard time being able to do healing work, because even just living day to day when you're conscious is healing work in itself. That is in itself doing work. If you're listening to these videos, if you're in this community, if you're a truther, red pill, whatever you want to call it, that is work in itself. And that part of the spiritual community that's in the toxic positivity will tell you that's negative and that's bad, but that's actually shadow work in itself, right? By us, and not that we have to listen to negative, heavy information all the time. But when we do listen to it, that 100 monkey effect, like you were talking to, JC, it wakes up the other people around us, right? And just that part you were saying that Justin Trudeau is our biggest teacher. The dark arts people, I've been feeling this so strong. And just using him as an example, and it's not just him, but he's kind of like the star boy of that whole thing, right? When he leaves,
for the famous walk in the snow in February, like his father did, maybe?
His famous walk in the snow. Yeah, I saw that today. I'm like, oh my God, that's so weird. The energetic vampires will want us to go into a place of, let's fucking get him, let's fucking kill that guy, that frequency.
Yeah.
Because that's what's feeding that frequency. Yeah. We need to come into a place of actually forgiveness, as hard as that is. And I know that's very hard to say, because at the end of the day, Justin Trudeau is a little boy. Well, we're on YouTube. I'll be careful what I say here. Sorry, I was about to say something really intense. He's a little boy that's been traumatized. in a very dark way. That yes, on the soul level, he agreed to do that. And there is, those dark aspects he's processing, but that's what's, I think, really going on. And knowing that, if that resonates with you, can help you in this healing process of a lot of these people in these positions of power. If you listen to people like Anna Kalukas, these survivors of these networks, they tell you all of these people are little boys and little girls that got sending you guys a telepathic message of what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And I got a little bit of flack. For the most part, the interview I did today on this Emergencies Act, all great comments. They love the new format and everything. But a few people said, hey, JC, there's a place for anger. Don't tell people not to have anger. Because I was suggesting at the end of that video that, yes, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of division. But this is the time now where we need to come together and work together to rebuild, to heal, and then to rebuild. Perhaps I'm too quick with that message. There's still people in the anger phase, but I would like to politely warn them that anger phase only leads to creating more of the Justin Trudeau's in our cycle because we haven't learned the process yet. So again, take that for what it's worth for now, my humble opinion. And that was the approach I was trying to bring in this particular video.
Can I just share something quick, JC?
Sure. Go ahead.
Liberty is mine. I totally agree with you. Justice is necessary. Totally agree with you. There's a difference between serving justice and unnecessary, even more pain. That's what I was trying to get at. I don't know if I explained that.
No, you're perfectly on. Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that all these people can go scot-free. No. I'm saying that justice needs to occur. Yes, absolutely. The rule of law, right? Our society has rule of law. We have to implement that. But we, as the wounded victims of some of this scenario, have to grow from that, take that as an experience to grow stronger, come together, heal from that, as opposed to getting into that anger, negativity to create more. That's what I hope for my kids, that we're not creating more Justin Trudeau's for them to face in the next 10, 20 years, that we can move that trajectory along for humanity. That's what I was trying to say, although it was just a 15-minute clip. So, Selvia, you're nodding your head also. Anything else you want to add to that? There's a few questions also I can bring up. How do you feel?
No, I'll go real quick. I just, the opposite of betrayal is forgiveness, right? And not that I am I've had to heal quite a bit of religious indoctrination over my lifetime into actually, becoming a priestess and all that. And I did want to quote one thing, whether he said it or not, Yeshua. Okay, whether he said it or not, the point is it's the message. And we know that the message was, something along the lines of, please, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. And the greater message, Yeshua's greatest message in relationship to Mary Magdalene, right, was divine union. And we know that they studied in the temple arts as well. And we know that he grew up in Egypt. And we know that that consciousness is truly what we are trying to evolve into. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
Very good. You and I kind of touched on the Magdalene manuscript last week. We might get into it tomorrow for the Sacred Mysteries and the Temple of the Blue Flame, guys. So join us tomorrow afternoon for that. There was a country boy, I guess, question. Will the ETs reveal themselves soon? I'm curious. Do you have a take on that, Selvia? I can ask Meg also, and how the astrology might support that actually right now as well. What do you think? We'll go with you first, Selvia.
Okay. I'm just going to say, have they not already?
Yes. Okay. I think what he meant is in a big way that it's now known to everybody, as opposed to what we're seeing now in government obfuscation, but getting into what Cliff High calls not hyper novelty, but sci-fi world, where we know for a fact now, most humans, that we don't live alone, that we are in this bigger community, not just here where we live, but also in and around, and also maybe in other dimensions. You talked about the elements earlier, the elementals and all that stuff. So we're getting into that field of view, even though for the longest time, we know there's Jinn around, like they're part of the UN, like they have their own seat at the table. But anyways, I digress. So it's already there, but what he meant was, does that become full knowledge for everyone anytime soon? Maybe this year in 2024. Your thoughts first, and then I'll ask Meg for the astrology on that.
I feel that yes, more and more will be revealing itself for sure. And in that note, it's to be aware and follow the thread of propaganda and follow the thread of where they're trying to funnel you as well. Fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not to say it doesn't exist. It's to say, watch where they're trying to funnel you and distract from what's potentially going on.
There's a lot of that. There's ETs and aliens in Miami as of late, and portals opening up in shopping malls. So, well, we'll get into that in a second. Guys, we're already 10 minutes past the hour mark here. My friends have other commitments tonight. So a big thank you to both you, Meg, and Selvia, for joining me tonight. Meg, for people who want to maybe do their forecast for the year, or maybe get an astrological reading, understanding how best to navigate here 2024, what does it look like on the chart for you right now? If people want to book for you at MaisonJupiter.com, when can they get a hold of you here?
Yeah, I've just added some availability for March. So there's a few spots left for March if anybody would like to book in. And then going into April, and March is our natural new year. So that's a very good time to look at your astrology for the year ahead. But you can do that at any point.
Okay, MaisonJupiter.com, and if you use the coupon code Beyond Mystic there, you'll get an extra 10% off. Let me ask you the same thing, Selvia. You had an incredible influx of emails and booking requests on your website last week per our last show. I understand now that for now you've had to cut the one-on-one mentorship program just because of overwhelming demand. You and I are talking off the screen now of how perhaps we're going to bring that mentorship to small, intimate groups on the Academy later on. But do you still have ability now for the Sapphire Flame sessions also on your site? And talk about the Egypt trip. There's a few people asking if there's still room for that.
Yes. So Sapphire Flame is still open. I have opened up a couple of spots in February. So we can go look at that. Otherwise, from mid-March to about the end of April, I will be in Egypt. So I will not be taking on any of those offerings other than focusing on my offering to Egypt. And there are 2 spots left right now for the Egypt pilgrimage. The information is on the website under retreats and trainings. You can email me if you're interested. I've had a ton of interest. I've been getting back to everybody within 24 to 48 hours. So just be patient with me because I received a tsunami of love. And
yes. Meg knows how that works.
Yeah.
She was in that spot last year when she joined her team. Okay, and so 2 spots left for Egypt. And I wanted to ask you, if those 2 spots fill out, is there any way that I can still maybe kind of join in and go into somebody's suitcase and join you guys too, like if it's possible?
Yeah, I'm sure we can work that out, JC.
We can work that out. Okay. I'm kind of interested, and so is Sarah, so we'll see. Okay, guys, that's intamana.ca if you want to book with Selvia there for the Sapphire Flame session. Of course, if you're looking for the information on the Egypt tour as well. So guys, don't forget also, Meg and I are trying to put this back on the board. We started Sunday, a lot of technical glitches, solar flares and everything. So we're going to try to put this back on the board for this week. This is the brand new Meg and JC show. And tomorrow, don't forget to join us. I believe it's at 2 p.m. Is it? No, at 3 p.m. for the Sacred Mysteries, the Temple of the Blue Flame. Again, we're going to go dive a little bit deeper into this beautiful conversation with our lovely friend, Selvia. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. This was the Divine Feminine Oracle Show for today, January 23rd. I love you guys. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Bye.